Welcome back to Vintage Camera Digest. In the last episode, we did sort of an introduction to large format photography, and I briefly mentioned the tripod I was using. The Smooth Camera Gear Sleek T6. It's a video tripod, but I think the features and versatility make it an excellent choice for large format photography. So we're going to take a closer look at it, and take it out again for another large format shoot. So stay tuned. First off, I want to bring your attention to this episode's featured photo. This great shot of Cradle Mountain and Dove Lake in Tasmania was photographed by Philip Clark on a Bronica S2A, one of my favorite cameras, using a 50mm wide-angle lens and Kodak Ektar 100. And I think it's a great use of reflections, and the rocks in the foreground add a nice point of interest that leads your eye up to the cabin. Very well done, Philip, and thanks for sending that in to share with viewers. I'm really excited about y'all sending in these photos. It's really inspiring to me, and I hope it is for you too. Now, we were talking about large format photography in the last episode, and we were going over all the types of cameras and lenses and film holders and all of that, but we didn't spend a lot of time on tripods. But tripods are pretty important when it comes to large format because the majority of large format cameras aren't designed for handheld use. Press cameras are the exception here, but modern field cameras and monorail cameras really need to be paired with a tripod. Now, large format cameras are fairly heavy. This field camera weighs in at about 8 pounds or 3.5 kilos with this 90mm lens. And this monorail camera weighs in at about 10 pounds or 4.5 kilos with a 250mm lens. So just any old tripod won't work. You need something sturdy and capable of handling these weights. And these are just 4x5 cameras. If you go with 8x10 or larger, well, it just gets heavier. For years, my favorite tripod has been the Vintage. Yeah, tripods can be vintage too. This Vintage Manfrotto system. I got it first back in the early to mid 90s, so it's not too vintage, but that was 30 years ago, so I suppose it does qualify as vintage. But the tripod system is made of the Manfrotto model 3046 legs and the 3047 three-way pan tilt head. And back in the 90s, these were marketed by the Bogan Company, and there was this ad that ran in all the photo magazines that said, Lester Bogan doesn't put his name on a tripod until he puts Lester Bogan on it. And then you had this photo of him sitting on one of his tripods, sometimes holding a few others at the same time. This is a sturdy tripod, and it's kind of heavy. Total weight of the legs and head with the quick release plate is about 12.5 pounds or about 5.7 kilos. So it's not really something I want to drag along on a hike. Another issue with this one is that its shortest height is 94 centimeters or about 37 inches. So if you want to set the camera up close to the ground, you won't be able to do it with this one. Great tripod, not super flexible. But a few weeks ago, a company called Smooth Camera Gear reached out and asked if I'd be interested in giving one of their tripods a look. They're in the video tripod business, but I mentioned in the last episode that for several years, I used a video tripod for large format work. And one of the reasons I did so was that video tripods that use the bowl system are designed to be easy to level on rough or uneven surfaces. So I pulled up their website and took a look at their products, which by the way is an impressive lineup, and I saw this one, the Sleek T6. This is the smallest and lightest one that they sell, carbon fiber legs, and their smallest head. But the thing that really got me interested was that it has no spreader. And if you don't know what that is, it's that system of bars that usually are attached to all the legs to help stabilize the legs by connecting them together. There are mid-level spreaders, like on the Manfrotto, or you can have floor spreaders, which are, as you probably guessed, at floor level. Floor spreaders usually mean that the tripod can be set relatively low to the ground, but they really need a smooth surface to be effective. And if you're going to shoot outdoors, you're not guaranteed a smooth or flat surface. But this has no spreaders, and that means that the legs can be positioned independently of each other. And it also means that I can shoot with this thing pretty low to the ground. Now you may be asking, what makes a photo tripod different from a video tripod? Well, the differences are usually found on the heads. Photo heads have the ability to turn vertical to make a vertical photo, and video heads are usually always set for horizontal shooting, since that has been, up to very recently, the standard video orientation. But with large format, you don't usually need the tripod head to turn vertically. Most large format cameras have a revolving back instead, which allows you to change the orientation of your shot. And to get the most out of perspective control movements on large format, you need to make sure that the camera is level. And that's another reason I like video tripods. A lot of them use the bowl system of leveling, meaning you can loosen this lever underneath and rotate it in the bowl until it is level, then tighten it back up. This is especially handy on uneven terrain. With a normal 3-way pan tilt photo head, you can still level the camera, but with this, it only takes one adjustment. And to ensure that it's level, you can refer to this bubble level right here, which, by the way, is illuminated by pressing this button. That is a really handy feature because I don't know how often I've had to use the light on my phone in a darkened situation to shine on the level so that I can see that it's level. Very cool. So let's look at the overall specs, legs first. They're made of 4 sections of carbon fiber with a maximum load capacity of about 20 kilos or 44 pounds, and they're extended using twist locks. Now, I haven't always liked twist locks, but I like these because they sort of have a click when they unlock, and they tighten up to the point where it gives me confidence that these things are solid. 2 of the legs also have a rubberized grip that is super grippy. If we extend these all the way out, the maximum height is 172 centimeters or about 68 inches. When the legs are collapsed and folded, the overall length is 55 centimeters or about 22 inches. Now, let's talk about the head. Like I mentioned before, it's a 75 millimeter bowl mount and it levels with this handle on the bottom. This one, the T6, has a load capacity of 7 kilos or about 15.5 pounds. And it has a stepped fluid control system. Now, when I'm using this with my large format cameras, I don't necessarily need a fancy pan and tilt system because I'll just level everything and lock it down. To lock the tilt, you can use this lever right here. And to lock the pan, you just flip that one out there. But when I'm out shooting video, this fluid drag system is pretty nice. It has a 4-step pan and tilt system with settings from 0 to 3. So the pan control dial is here, and it has markings on both sides of the head so that you can check it from multiple angles. If you set it to 0, then there's 0 resistance, but the resistance will increase with each step. When you want to lock the pan angle, just flip that into place and you are locked. The tilt control dial is right here. Again, set to 0, you've got 0 resistance. But a couple of steps in there, and you've got a nice smooth tilt. Setting it to 3 is going to give you the highest resistance, and the tilt lock lever, like I mentioned before, is right there. These dials are pretty easy to move since they feature slightly scalloped grips and they click nicely into each step. It also has an 8-step counterbalance system. Now, this does come in handy with my large format cameras, especially the monorail, and especially when using the large reflex viewer. Setting at 0 offers no counterbalance, and 7 will give you the most. But adding counterbalance is going to ensure that the camera is always stable. No matter what the tilt setting is, it's going to keep it from falling forward or backward unexpectedly. The mounting plate is a Manfrotto style quick release, but on this head you don't need to slide it in from the front or the back. You just place it in and press it down. Then you can tighten it up with the camera plate lock. To remove it, just loosen the locking screw a few turns, then press the safety, lift it straight out. There are also a couple of other features worth mentioning. There are 2 spare mounting screws, one on each side, and the rosettes are replaceable. These can get worn down after years of use, and it's good to know that you won't have to replace the whole head at that point. And speaking of the rosettes, you have the pan bar that you can attach on either side, and it's extendable from 38 to 58 centimeters or from 15 to 23 inches. And that is also pretty useful for large format shooting. Having that pan bar really helps maintain control of the camera. And that basically covers the talking points. But for good measure, we're going to take it out and shoot a few sheets of film with it. If you saw the intro to large format episode that came out earlier this week, you already saw this thing in use with my monorail camera, and it performed great. But I'm going to take it out again, this time with the Toyo field camera, so I will see you out there.
So I wanted to find a place that I could take advantage of how low this tripod sits. I've not had the opportunity to shoot any large format this low on the ground before. So I was looking for a place where I could exploit that, right? So here, we've got all of this stuff up in the foreground, and we've got the waterfall coming down over in the back. Got some leaves here. So I'm gonna set this up with my 90mm 5.6 and shoot that way, hopefully get some of this stuff in the background for composition. Get some of this stuff in the foreground for composition. It's a very contrasty day out here though. We've got bright sun, clear skies, and I'm in the shade here. And there are a couple little pools of light, especially where the water's coming in and churning up right here at the base of the little falls. It's gonna be really, really contrasty. I've got a very wide dynamic range. So to help combat that, I've got Ilford Delta 100 in the camera. I'm gonna expose it at 50, so I'm gonna pull process. So that just means I'm gonna overexpose it and then reduce the development time, hopefully to keep that contrast range in check. Because I really don't want that area, which is a very interesting area of the shot, to be totally blown out. I want to be able to work with that. So, shooting the Delta 100 at ISO 50, and for the rest of the stuff I'm going to do today, so I can process it in the same tank. But again, this is just to take advantage of how low this tripod sits. I've already got it adjusted and leveled. I have my Toyo 45 out here, field camera. I have the binocular viewer on it because that sure does make it easier to see when you're this low on the ground. So I'm gonna get it set up, metered, get the film ready, and we'll make a few exposures. All right? So let me do some spot metering around here to see if I can find where my extremes are. I'm gonna go ahead and set the f-stop to, I think I want to shoot somewhere around f16 maybe. We'll see. All right, so the little pool of light there has f22 at 1/8 of a second. The shadow area right beside it is f2.8. So I've got about f22 light down here in this pool, and this rock, this wet rock right beside it over here in the shade, that's probably going to be my shadow area. So I'm going to meter each of those, highlight point and the shadow point. I'm going to average the two together. All right, so there's my shadow area, put that in memory. There's my highlight area, put that in memory, going to average that. And if I want to go f16, 1/2 second at f16. All right, let's set that up. I changed the shutter speed over here to 1/2 of a second. I'm gonna open the shutter just to make sure I have everything arranged. Now let's put the f-stop to f16 and see if that's gonna give us a deep enough depth of field. It really does not. Okay, so I'm going to take advantage of the tilt movement here. So wide open at 5.6, I've got the foreground and the falls in focus. We just have a little bit, I need to work on the bridge in the background. So I think I can take care of that with adding a little bit more depth of field to it. So if I go back to f16, all right, so I have used a little bit of front tilt in order to set my plane of focus at more of an angle. So instead of going flat across the parallel to the film plane, sort of going up at an angle. All right, got my shutter speed set. Half second at f16. All right, let's close this thing up. Got it focused. Cock the shutter. Now I need to put the film in. Make sure I have it locked. Dark slide out. And all right, dark slide back in. Got the black tab facing out. Let's turn this over to the other side. And I'm gonna go to f22 almost. And let's change that to 1 second at f22. This just gives us some options. Dark slide out. And here we go. All right, lock that up. Cool. All right, so I'm about to get the camera and show you what sort of tilt we had going on here, just to get an idea. Because view cameras, this is what's cool about them. The lens plane and the film plane don't always have to be parallel or in line with each other. But this is what sort of tilt I had in order to get the foreground and the background all in focus. All right, so before I pack up completely, I want to get about 6 frames shot today, because that's how many I can develop at one time. And I'm going to shoot them all at ISO 50. And pool process. But before we leave this location, I want to make sure I'm not missing out on some fantastic shot. All right. So I found another shot. I'm just getting a little bit closer to this waterfall and where it's hitting at the base. There's some water flying over this rock here. And we've got these leaves right here in the front. So the leaves are going to be my foreground. And I'm not really getting much in the shot except for this lower bit of falls. But I do like having the leaves in the foreground, and they're sort of in a little pool of light, so maybe that'll be cool. All right, I know that I'm gonna have to use the front tilt again to get everything in focus, but that's fine, that's what we can do. All right, so let's find a few spots. I'm going with the shadow area right here as my shadow area. And again, we'll go here with the 32. All right, and average that together, F11 at a half second. So let's go F16 at 1 second. But still, like I said, gonna have to use some front tilt to make this work. F16 at 1 second. Let's go ahead and put that to 1 second so I'll know that's okay. All right, let's figure out how we can get this. This is wide open at 5.6. I'm gonna figure out the tilt with this. I think that's gonna get it. I'm gonna cheat and move a leaf. Y'all didn't see me do that. Let me see what the exposure is on that leaf. That may be my highlight point. All right, so I'm at F16 at 1 second. Locked all that down. Crank it locked, lock, lock, lock. All right, shutter is closed, F16, 1 second. Pop the shutter. Move the dark slide. And fire away. All right. Turn this over. And instead of doing F16, I'm gonna shoot one where with no tilt, where we just have this group of leaves in focus. I'm gonna go for super shallow depth of field, just to see, all right? Turn it back to straight, level, and plumb. 5.6, let's open that up so I can get an idea. All right, f-stop's at 5.6, wide open. Let's see if we can make some measurements. Same ones, by the way. 2.8, it's my shadow area. There's my highlight area. So 1/8 of a second at 5.6. Close the shutter. 5.6. Cock the shutter. Take that out. Film. Dark slide out. And here we go. All right. All right, so that's 4 shots down. I got 2 more sheets of film to shoot, but I'm not gonna do them here. Go across town to the Buffalo Creek Outdoor Education Center because there's some stuff low to the ground there. I'd like to get on them large format. I'll see you there. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this bubble level to level it up. And it locks with this lever under here. All right, so we've got the head level. Now all I need is the camera. We have this equipment here. I've shot this before about last year, but never with a 4x5. And like I said, I'm using the tripod to get as low to the ground. I'm not as super low as I thought I would be. Could probably go down a little bit more. Huh. Let's see what happens if I do that. Well, I'm gonna have to move the camera if I go down any more because this structure here is in the way. Let's shoot one like this, and we'll see about getting a different one. All right, so I'm probably gonna have to use some front tilt, not tilt, I'm probably gonna have to use some swing for this, because I'm not gonna shoot super small. I'm rating this at 50, the L for Delta at 50. Let me meter. There is not a large amount of contrast here. So I do not have any contrasty lighting. All right, so let's see what we have. Just not much difference in the it's a low contrast situation here. F4, 1.4, 2. All right, so let's do a 1 second though. And at 1 second, we're getting like F8. Okay, so found me a highlight spot there in the back. So F8 at 1 second. All right, F8 at 1 second. Certainly gonna have to use some swing. Let's unlock that standard. Let's see. That's too much swing, don't need that much. Unlock it. And let's pan it just a little. All right. All right, F8 at 1 second. Lock it down. Lock, lock, lock. All right, move it to F8. Shutter to 1 second. Cock it. Shut the shutter. All right. Let's get some film. Dark slide out. Shutter is cocked and ready. Okay. Dark slide in. All right. Instead of doing two shots, two exposures of the same shot, I'm gonna reconfigure it just a little bit. All right, so I moved the camera. So instead of shooting this at an angle, I'm shooting it straight on, sort of where it's flat. And I changed to the 150 millimeter lens instead of the 90, so more of a normal lens instead of a wide angle. This is going to just sort of capture just a part of that. So, need a meter. Don't think it's going to significantly change since last time. All right, let's see, but I am getting some sort of highlight areas in the back. I don't know that I can pay that much attention to, well, like I said, we can go contrasting, that's not a big deal. So the highlights in the back are about F22, so let's put that in. And the shadows in the front. Put some way back here in the leaves. All right, there's my shadow. Average 8.5 at 1 second. All right. Let's finish up, make sure that we are focused. All right, looks good. Close the shutter. 8.5 at 1 second. Put that to 1 second. We're at 8. I will go to 8.5 because I can. Let's cock the shutter. All right. Film in. Dark slide out. That's it. So, the tripod. This thing is excellent for getting low to the ground with a heavier camera. We've got bubble levels here, we've got bubble levels here. The one here, of course, is illuminated. But of course, the beauty of it is you can level the whole thing with this bowl and ball system like you would on a video tripod. That's why I like video tripods for this, because I never have to turn the camera vertical. I can always turn the camera horizontal, change the back if I need to, and it lets me set the thing level to begin with. And this sucker's sturdy too. See you back at the studio.
I always enjoy a reason to get one of the 4x5s out. Playing with the movements and adjusting the plane of focus is a good thing to keep in practice. And if you want to check out high-res versions of these shots, I'll add a link in the description. And the Sleek T6 is probably the best tripod I've ever had the pleasure to use. It puts my old favorite Manfrotto system to shame. Granted, that tripod is 30 years old, but when it works like you need it to and it doesn't fall apart, there's no real reason to change. But this tripod, to me at least, is a reason to change. It will be my go-to tripod for large format work, as well as most, if not all, of my video projects. The thing that sells it for me is the counterbalance system and the fact that it can be set very low to the ground. Plus, it seems to be really well made with a solid, expensive feel. And speaking of expense, what will one of these set you back? Well, the normal price as of November 2024 is 944 US dollars. So they're not inexpensive, but they're currently running a Black Friday sale where you can pick this one up for a lot less. I'll add that link down in the description too. So coming up next on the channel, we'll be looking at the Minolta SRT series, specifically the SRT 101 and 102. These cameras are some of my longtime favorites, but I guess I say that about most any camera, to be honest. But these are indeed excellent mechanical machines that don't break the bank, and the selection of lenses available is pretty extensive, so you won't want to miss that. Thanks again to Philip Clark for sharing this great photo. Y'all keep sending them in. I'll see you next time.